Hi, I'm Hab Haddad. I'm the CEO of Greenpoint Holdings. We're a cannabis manufacturer and distributor in Long Beach, California. I'm here to talk about the state of the industry, more specifically taxes that have been applied to the cannabis industry and what I feel is in an unjust manner. And basically, just so people at large understand, cannabis is one of the few agricultural crops, if only agricultural crop, that is actually taxed at the plant level. One of the hardest things that us cannabis operators have to deal with are the cultivation tax that have been levied on our industry. There are a lot of farmers out there right now that are letting their crops die and not harvest them just so they don't have the tax burden that's been placed upon them by the state. The cultivation tax compounds, right? So it adds to the cost of the product, which then later gets taxed further along the supply chain. So by the time it gets to the retail touch point and the consumer, the taxes and the product price is compounded so much that it's out of reach for most consumers, which drives them to the illicit market. In addition to the compounding tax that the cultivation tax creates, because as the cannabis products go further down the supply chain, they get taxed again and again. What a lot of state regulators don't understand is all the local municipalities actually tax the entire supply chain. So not only is cannabis taxed at the state level when it's grown, but it's also taxed at the local level when it's grown. And then as it travels down the supply chain to manufacturers, distributors, to testing labs, they're also taxed all the way across the supply chain locally, issued a heavy excise tax at the retail level. So by the time the consumer gets their products, they're almost twice the cost of what they would have been if these taxes weren't levied. And it's a serious issue that's creating a mass exodus away from legal cannabis to the illicit market. We're losing jobs, losing our consumers' faith and trust, and we're causing a public health crisis due to all of the illicit products that aren't being tested under the same rigorous testing protocols that we have to adhere to. So it's a serious issue that needs to be addressed by eliminating cultivation tax and lowering the excise tax to a decent level where the legal market can compete with the illicit market. Also, cultivation tax are a flat tax. So even if a crop fails or has to be sold at a subpar price, the tax is at a fixed price. And amidst this crisis, the state and the CDTFA have actually raised taxes January 1st of 2022 by approximately 5%, which has put an even tougher stronghold on cultivators and manufacturers alike. For example, the cost of tax for 1 pound of flower is now $161. For a pound of trim, it's $48. Trim prices are lower than that. The cost of the tax is more than the cost of the trim. I pay $10 a pound for trim. The tax is 5 times the cost of the trim. Therefore, adding to the cost of the oil that I make and then further goes throughout the supply chain as people make their products. So this is a travesty. It needs to be reformed or repealed. The state cannabis framework is a mess, and what they need to do is immediately eliminate cultivation taxes and lower excise taxes so that they're reasonable and we can compete with the illicit market, so that we can keep the legal market stable, we can create jobs, retain the jobs that we're losing already, and also compete with the illicit market and not create a public health crisis because 90% of the products in illicit stores are not tested and are pesticide ridden. I just think it's something that we need to take a serious look at and act immediately for the health of this industry, or we are in deep peril.